Howdy-o, everyone. Lost Leader here, back in action with more Force of Will attraction. If you can't tell already, I'm not looking forward to green. Green is definitely one of the few elements that I haven't really gotten into in other trading card games, but it just keeps becoming more and more apparent that Force of Will wants green to succeed more than any other element out there. I know it's technically wind, whatever. It's just a menace. That's just full out a menace to this whole entire thing. And this set is no different. It pretty much just wants you to want to play green and use the green Jroller, and it just sucks in that regard. So let's get started on this OP set. Alright, the first card we have is 1-cost Quickcast, Approaching the Truth. That's not too bad in terms of just the way green is, but it's certainly something that green doesn't necessarily need, and yet it gets, and it's a story chant on top of the fact. So it actually has some good utility in terms of, hey, let's go ahead and just give the green Jroller whatever the hell that she wants here. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number of them on the top of your deck in any order, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, draw a card. So this gives you a really good opportunity to just kind of like cycle through cards and whatnot and just make sure that you get the card that you want to draw, and you're drawing 2 cards if it's your draw phase, or you're just drawing a card, and then the next card you could possibly draw in the draw phase itself. It's a very good card, honestly. This is a pretty good card. It's a good card in a really good card in limited, and it's a really good card in general. Especially if you have this side decked and not anything else, because you don't really want to run a whole bunch of these, but having this on the side is just ridiculous to have, and I really don't doubt this is going to be one of the few cards that that Jroller is going to have on the side there, because it's a story chant, and it's a really good cheap costing story chant that just is always a viable thing. I don't think you run it in the main deck though. The main deck, it's a little too much, honestly. It's just a little too much. In terms of like, I want to have other stuff in my card space and whatnot, but overall it's alright. I don't like it though, because it just shows and demonstrates how OP green is, and this is just the start of it. Cleansing Doll. Now, an interesting thing to note about dolls: they are likely not to be played in any other deck except for the doll Jroller deck, and that means all the dolls will technically have Quickcast. This is not needed at all. It was used for no reason, and frankly, why the hell? It's so stupid, and I hate it. I really do. I have to mention this. It's a 7/8. It has 7 attack and defense is 8, which is just mean, honestly. For a 3 cost, that's an understandable amount, but it also has an effect too, and it's like, why does it have this effect? It doesn't need to have effect if it's a 7/8, or at least not this kind of effect. This card enters the field, destroy target non-magic stone, non-J resonant entity. So if you do, you get to go ahead and destroy an addition, essentially. That's basically what this card is saying. Destroy an addition. Not necessarily always that case, but for the most part, it's like, just do that. You don't get to kill a random dude, but this is a good little thing to get rid of addition, and it's quick cast now, so you can just do it that way. So they pull out a quick cast card, pull out an addition, you kill the addition. I know it doesn't say it outright, but there are very few cards that are not that, so. And on top of that, it has an additional effect that if you do destroy an addition, you may flip a card in your extra deck face down. Now, to understand a little bit better why that's like really good, it's because the Jroller itself cannot use the card if it's already up and it's past the turn that they revealed the card. So because of that, you're gonna want to like run this card specifically just to make sure you have addition hate on top of being able to flip a card down. So we got great utility for the Jroller, like legitimately enough. You're not gonna see me say that a lot of these cards are bad, just they're awful in the sense that they're bad for the meta, and they really are, because green is just atrociously just mean. Ugh. I'm not gonna have a fun time reviewing this part. Doll audience. Ugh, why are all the dolls so creepy looking and everything? They just are. This is something that freaked me out from Timbuktu. So it's a two cost, technically a quick cast, 6/6 defense, attack and defense. And when this card enters the field, target resonator gains +200/+200 until end of turn. You could surprise somebody and then just have someone get hurt by something. Not one of the best dolls out there, but it has enough utility to be like, I should probably like run one or two of them and just kind of like show it off and everything. And it's sucky. It's very, very sucky that this is a quick cast that just enters the field and gives someone +200/+200. And then you can also just have all that. If you even give this guy a 200/200, you'd be like, oh, I don't have anybody to block. And then you're like, actually, I do have somebody to block. And it's 800/800. And then you block. And you kill their dude that way, too. It's kind of weird that this card is as good as it is, and yet it's not. And it literally has everything to do with the Jroller itself. If this was just a regular card that did not have quick cast or access to quick cast, I would not play it at all. This is not a good card outright. It's only good because of its Jroller. And that's the sucky thing about it. But you know what? Whatever. We're green and we make OP cards. Why don't we? Now here's a card that looks good at first. Enormous. What the heck is that called? Effigy. When a resonator deals damage to this card, destroy that resonator. You know, it's pretty cool. You know, just you have a sort of death touch thing going on here. But it's a 13/13 on top of the fact that it just sort of is a 5 cost, and there's a better card out there than this card, and it's the variant. The variant card is actually the better card of this card. So I would not run this card in particular. I would run the variant of this card. I just remember it being a better card, but again, this stall gains access to quick cast, so having a 5 cost quick cast monster that's just like, hey, guess what, you hurt me, I get to kill your resonator, is still really mean. So yeah, it would probably see play to a lot of people if the other doll didn't exist, if the other variant doll did not exist, because the other variant doll is far more important to actually exist than anything else. So yeah, there's a good trade-up is what I'm saying here. So good card, trade-up's better. Evil Dungeon. Okay, finally we have some cards here that are mildly good to the point of just like, we could discuss something. It's a 3 cost, so that hurts its chances of seeing play just in general. Resonator Spirit, so it's like you use it in a Spirit deck, which is, I'm like, why would you? Because it has Legend. And for those that don't know, Legend is the key word that basically means if you have a Jroller that's Grimoire, and Grimoire is basically you get to get a side deck that's separate from your actual side deck and for your actual main deck, which is stupid, and I'll get more into that later, but and if you revealed any given cards within that side deck, the Grimoire, you get to have access to whatever these abilities are. So if you reveal 3 cards, then you get that ability. If you reveal 5 cards, you get to do all 3. So that's how it would go, I think. Yeah, that's how it would go. So attack 7, defense 7, nothing to write home about. It's all the other stuff that you want to write home about. So you're at least gonna get it to like Legend 3 if you've been playing the doll girl properly enough, and you're just like, this is pretty cool. When this card enters the field, your opponent discards card. So that's just great off the bat. That really should have been the opposite effect, where it was Legend 4. That's the one. But Legend 4 is your opponent loses 400 life, which is like, that sucks, but it's not nearly as bad as Legend 3. So Legend 3 is already the better choice. And then you also have here Legend 5. Your opponent banishes a resonator, which is just like, not nice. But it's basically just like, they get to kill somebody on their side. If they only have one resonator, they die. And just bleh. It's a mean card, but it stops ever so slightly because it's a spirit. So it's not going to see a lot of play, but if we get any more Grimoire, J resonators, then you would probably see more play. But for now, you just want to use the dolls in comparison to him. He's just, if anything, he'd be filler for everything else. So yeah, just better cards out there. Oh, one gauze. What the heck is this? Look at all this stuff here. One cost intervention of reality. So this is just stupid. Alright, we got Legend 1, target J Resonator gains plus 600 until end of turn. So that you just gotta reveal one card and you're gonna do it. So pretty much, if you're running the Doll Girl, which you could pretty much only run this card, the Doll Girl, you would always have the Legend 1 standing, or at least you should be able to, any given turn. Now Legend 3 is where things get a little tricky, but it's like, okay, I understand why they would want that. Destroy target addition, you know, so we need more addition hate and whatnot. And then we have the Legend 5 right here. You just search your deck for a Resonator, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is one of the very few green cards that isn't so bad. Like, it actually isn't bad at all. All these effects right here are not bad. Frankly, I don't mind it. If anything, that target J Resonator should probably have been a Legend 2. That way it's just a little bit easier to not to spam the bejeebus out of. And if anything, this is probably going to be used literally and utterly just for that first ability. Those other two abilities are kind of meh to begin with. They come in way too late in the game for what you want. So you're going to see some play with it, but only with a sort of rushy style of the dolls more than anything else. Aside from that, I don't see it getting played for the other two effects. It's just the one effect that it needs, and that's it. In fact, if it just had that one where any other ruler could have used this, then they would have, but unfortunately that's not the case. Just not the case. This card is broken. This card is super duper broken. And it's broken because it's a Chant story. Last Days of the Powerless Dragonoid. That's just so dumb. I hate this stupid thing. It's a 1-cost Quickcast Chant story, so that means it could be on a side deck. And that means you could just leave it there on the Grimoire side deck, and you just have this wonderful thing against both mystery counters, fire, and just the strength counters itself. This pretty much makes running Keurig for strength counters a moot point. You're not going to see Keurig really run for strength counters anymore because of this card. This killed strength counters. This card effectively and utterly killed strength counters. Because either they'll just remove all the counters that you did use, or they'll just go to cancel that fire chant that you want to be using. And honestly, this is way too overpowered. If this was a 2-cost, I could see it being a better, but the way that it is now, it just does not work. It does not work. It is too overpowered, and it doesn't make sense why they kept it this way. And the sad thing, and the sad truth is that they could add more for their side deck and just be like, guess what? I just have more in my hand. Or they could just reveal it and then put it out again or whatever. But this is just too much. It's way too much for what it is, and I hate it for it. It is a super overpowered card that kills decks, and that's not what you want. And it literally would not have the ability to kill decks if it wasn't for the fact that it's a story chant. That is the literal reason why it is such a powerful card. So if you want to run it, you should run it. That way you get down any Keurigs, and you're going to destroy a lot of Reiya runs. Reiya Rush, I should say, because Reiya Rush is going to be a very big thing that comes up now. It's no longer going to be, anything, it's not going to be Reiya Control counter. It's going to be Reiya Rush, because she has the bats, she has a bunch of little things that she could just rush you with and destroy you with the mystery counters. So that remove all counters from your opponent's Jroller helps a whole bunch. This also hurts Shayla too a bit, because Shayla is able to get thunder counters as well. But this does not eliminate Shayla at all. This just doesn't. Shayla is just able to add those in for free. They accumulate pretty fast despite everything. So it's not going to be the worst thing for Shayla to have those thunder counters ruined. Although this is something that a lot of thunder decks have to be wary about. So if I were to tell you, I would run this card no matter what. In comparison to some of the other cards that this Chant story has and whatnot. But for the most part, devastating card for the meta. Devastating. Defining, honestly. And I hate it for it, because story did not need this. Green did not need this. So here's another one cost quick cast. That's bull. That's absolute bull. Why is this a one cost quick cast? I don't care that his attack is 100, his defense is 200. You're not playing for this guy to live. He's not gonna live. On top of that, if you remove 3 spirit magics in your graveyard from the game, put this card from your graveyard into your hand, which, in all honesty, like, a lot of decks could do that without being a full-on spirit magic deck. But the very fact of the matter is, this dude could like live again in your hand, then you get cancel ability again. And when this card enters the field, cancel target activated or automatic ability your opponent controls. That is nasty, nasty stuff. That is a really, really good effect. So they come in and like they do their god art, or they do their stupid little like kind of like when it enters in and just like you're just able to cancel it. Just like, nah. So green gets effectively a Keys Call that's better than Keys Call. That's pretty much what happened. Like, legitimately enough. Keys Calls is a really, really good card. It can work in any given deck. You can side deck it and whatnot. This card right here is an even better card than that. So, in all honesty, it's stupid. And on top of that, cancel target activated or automatic ability your opponent controls. So it's not even Keys Call where it's like target resonator, it's automatic ability. This gets any and all automatic abilities your opponent controls. That means IU is up for grabs in terms of the automatic things she does. She flips over, you play this card, and is like, hey, guess what? You don't get another soul resonator. Or she tries to do her god art, like, hey, you can't do that now. So the god art's wasted entirely. This helps ruin IU tremendously. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's still something that's super, super bad, and something that makes IU not nearly as viable of an option as she could have been. And it's just so stupid that green gets access to this card. And green is just so overwhelmingly powerful. If it wasn't for this card, if it wasn't for the fact that Otherworldly Dreams was banned, then I would say that IU is a dead deck. But now that it's banned, it's not a dead deck. It can still be run pretty well, but this does not help it whatsoever. And this is just a nasty card in general. The very fact that they make a Keys Call that's better for green is asinine. In all honesty, if you were to ask me, I think blue should get all the cancel target abilities and like change directions and whatnot, and green should get the cancels. And then I'll be like, okay, cool. So green has cancels, and blue has the ability stuff. So you can have like a control deck that way. But no, they just ruin it with this card. Just absolutely, positively ruin it. What I'm trying to say here, it's an over-the-top, overly powered card, and it sucks that it is. Alright, Deletion Magic. This is a pretty neat card. It's a Spirit Magic Chant, so that means that Gil would be able to use it for 2, and just have that free sort of counter coming out there. I don't think this card is particularly the best thing in the world that like everyone else seems to like think that it is. The very fact that it's just kind of like just a decently good cancel card. We're just like, you know what? No, you don't get to use that spell because I decided to cancel it for like 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how much you have going on for yourself. I think that's really cool. I really don't mind this card at all. This card is probably one of the fairest green cards out there. Like, no lie, I really do think that's the case in point. But that's just kind of it. Just sort of, it does what it does, and it does it well. And I have no reason to hate this card. I have no reason to think that this card is more than it should be or less than it should be. So yeah, really good card. All around in terms of balance, in terms of how good it is and everything. If you run cancels at any point in time, you probably would use this card. Larettes Wind, 2 cost. Now this is one that I would not run. It's a Chant Spirit Magic that's like kind of interesting, but it's definitely a cancel that's specific. Cancel target Chant spell targeting you or a J resonator you control. So that gets the vast majority of spells that are targeting you. So that gets the vast majority of them. Not every single one. Your additions are not safe, and that's kind of it. Additions and magic stones, I guess. All that such. But as for everything else here, it's alright for what it does. I do not see why you play this in comparison to just a straight up cancel. The very fact that deletion magic right here just sort of does the same thing for almost the same cost really kind of helps it in that fact that it's just not nearly as good. I would not see this coming into play at all. I just don't. Not even for Reiya, because Reiya is like very much J Resonator stuff that you do, but the very fact that it's something that you have to control and not just something that you just cancel a target spell with really does suck in that regard, and they probably could have changed it, but then again, Wind has too many cancels to begin with. Honestly, it's meh. So you're just not going to see this card in play unless it's like a super niche sort of thing. But, leave Guardsmen. We also have some more elemental support here. It's attack 300, defense 700, 2 cost, which is actually pretty dang good. You just got a nice little blocker right there. And when this card is put into the graveyard from the field, search your deck for a card named Leaf Guardsman. Reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this helps bring a lot more elementals out into play and everything, and just kind of helps Gil cycle through his deck, which honestly I don't feel like he really needs to do that. In fact, if they actually made this card the opposite way, where his attack was 700 and defense was 300, this card would make a lot more sense in all honesty. But the very fact that he has 700 means that he's beefy enough to live long enough, but not beefy enough to just outlast anything. So it's kind of sucky in that regard, but for the most part, he's just a chump blocker. And they could have made him better. They really could have. There are definitely better elements than this card, I would say, but he certainly has interesting stratego here. So elementals, I don't think are dead, in all honesty. I really don't think they're dead, but if you want to run Gil as a specific counter, like Gil counter deck, that's a dead deck. As far as I'm concerned, you do not have a viable win option there. But with elementals, they're still around, they're still viable in terms of as a race and whatnot. Just don't agree with Gil actually being alive. Like, you're not running Gil for Gil anymore. You're running Gil because he just has some synergy with elementals. Like, that's legitimately it. And even then, elementals, they have a super hard time living, as it were. So it's just, not good stuff. Now, Leaf Reflector here, fairly good card, honestly. Actually pretty decent on the fact that it's a 4 cost and has a 1,000 on top of the fact that if the Chant deals damage to this card deals that much damage to your opponent as well. So that's super duper cool too. It has a little extra counterplay to some fire and whatnot. But for the most part, I really don't see this card being run either, despite the fact that it has that nice little effect. Just not enough things that actually damage resonators in comparison to just destroying them. So you're not likely to see this much in play. And for the most part, you don't really want to draw into it. You would just kind of want to have it in the graveyard. The very fact that it's Leaf does help its playability, but for the most part, not a good card. Now, like, this guy got the swagger. Leaf Steward is a 2 cost, which is already really nice for him. And then you got the attack 6, defense 6 is real good. Target resonator in your graveyard gains elemental in addition to its other races till end of turn. Actually has some viable uses for a lot of things here. Could really help Gil survive if given the fact that his graveyard is dead and he just has no elementals in his graveyard. So I definitely like it for that fact. Definitely a good card for sure. It's the fact that he's a 6/6, it doesn't really matter so much as it matters that he's able to help you with elemental getting in your graveyard. That's probably the most important thing that we need to take from here. And if you're running Gil, you probably do want to run some counters and some elves and whatnot that are not elementals. So it really does help with that. Really does. Now we have Null Page here. It's a 3 cost. When this card enters the field, remove target wizard from the game. As long as there is a card in any removed area that was removed by this card, your opponent cannot play cards that share a name with that card. Bad card. Probably the first green card that we actually seen in the set that's actually bad. Like, bad. Like, you would not play this at all. There's no reason to play this card. There just isn't. Like, you have Sacred Elf, which makes sense. You have a few other cards that make sense like that too. But the fact it's a 3 cost means that you should be doing better things. You should not be focusing on getting rid of your opponent's cards and whatnot. If this was a 1 cost, I would say this is a very good card, helps counter Sacred Elf, and helps lower the meta playing field when it comes to that. But it's not. It's a 3 cost. So now it's just garbage. No one's going to run it. No one's going to play it. It just doesn't work. It really just does not work. You're better off doing 1 and only in terms of what you should actually like do and whatnot for this card. So, bad card, unfortunately. Good idea behind the card, just a bad card though. It doesn't help the fact that it's only remove target resonator as well. What were they thinking? Patrolling Guard Doll. Legend 2, this card gains plus 300, plus 300. So remember that this is also a quick cast, and remember that you're likely to have Legend 2 at the very least when it comes to having this guy out. Unless you're like being super conservative with your Grimoire deck, that should not be the case. This is a really good doll card because it's pretty much 11/11, 3 cost, and that's kind of insane in all honesty. This really should have been like a Legend 3. That way it could have like counteracted against like having that beefy soldier come out of nowhere. But no, of course not, because Green gets all the cool stuff, right? So yeah, if you're running doll, you might as well run this. You might as well run this. This is a very good card for it. And I hate that it is. I hate every single doll. Every single one. Puppet Maker. It's a 2 cost, 6/6 Resonator Wizard. So already off the bat, not the best thing for doll, despite the fact that it interacts with doll. Whenever a doll enters your field under your control, draw a card. Pretty interesting, nice little trade up. And then it has a Legend 3, dolls you control gain plus 200, plus 200. I could see this being in a play, at the same time I could see it not being in a play. Having that ability to draw a card is always a really cool and good thing. It has a lot of synergy with the dolls itself, obviously enough. The fact that it's just a wizard kind of ruins a lot of things that it could do. Did not really need that attack 6, defense 6 for that 2 cost. Probably could have been a 1 cost, honestly. Or like a 1 cost and then like a void cost and then just sort of that way. That Legend 3, the plus 200, plus 200, definitely good little trade up there. That's the only reason why you would actually run it. Not because of the doll synergy for when dolls enter the field. But I don't see anyone running this more than 2. It's just... you could run better dolls, honestly. You could do better things with the dolls and everything like that. So it's sort of just meh in that regard. It's a good card. It's a good combo card, I should say. But I just don't see really this card being run in doll decks when you probably could have better dolls or better resonators at your disposal, like the elf dude, in comparison to this one. That's only in the sake and fact that you're keeping account with certain, how to say, certain like ways you want to do things. But he's kind of your only way to like pump your dolls, so like he's kind of more of a filler card to me than anything else. Like that's the way that I see it. I love this girl so much. Rachel, the ancient library researcher. She is the closest thing that we have to Mill in Force of Will. It is about time that we get some Mill. She is an astounding card because she actually means that Mill is viable now. Well, not viable, I mean in the sense that like you can literally make a Mill deck down. Like that is an ability that you could do. It's not the best. In fact, you kind of need more than 1 Mill card in order for this to work. Curse of the Kyuubi will definitely help you on that, and so would Gil's remove top card from game stuff. But for now, it would probably take her, I think, 14 shots just on her side, or 10 shots, I think. No, it's 10. It takes her 10 times to enter the field in order for your opponent to die, essentially. So that's a really hard thing to do, but for the most part, I've gotten some strategies up for that. And on top of the fact that, you know, that she enters the field, your opponent discards 3 cards, or you discard 3 cards, from your graveyard, from your deck to your graveyard. You could also search a card if she leaves the field. Once she leaves the field, you get to search your deck for a card, put it into your hand. So that means you could have her leave the field, you search for her again, and then you put her out again, and then you do the same thing all over again. So it has a really cool play going on with Lumia going on here. So Lumia Mill is definitely going to be a thing that does happen. I don't think it's a viable option as of right now. There's just not enough to actually make it happen. But with the next set to come in, I think Mill's going to actually be a thing that we're going to see. And if that does happen, I am going to run at Mill. And she is obviously a very key card for this, because she just is really OP for Mill. For Mill specifically. But I really hope that's the case. I really hope Mill shows up, because I've been wanting to run Mill for the longest time in Force of Will, and everyone's shouting, let's have 40 card decks, means that, like, hey, guess what? You only get like 10 turns. And that's what I want. So that 10 turns is definitely not, like, it's not, you're likely to die in 10 turns, in all honesty, with every single game, but at least Mill has it to where, like, I can get it down to 10 turns, you know? So I'm excited for this deck, in all honesty. I really am excited for any kind of thing to do with Mill. So I'm happy this card exists, meta-changing card, really good card without the Mill factor to it, and it's just great. I like it. This is good. It's good stuff. Here's the card I thought killed IU. Scarlets Agony. Remove target attacking J Resonator from battle. Draw a card. That is mean. That is a mean card. That means IU comes in to attack you. You're like, but IU doesn't come in to attack me. Draw a card. I get to draw a card on top of the fact that I stop you from doing things. If Otherworldly Dreams was still in the picture, IU would be a dead deck. There's just too many things that counter IU now that are just so, like, not costly at all. They're not costly at all. And that's kind of the biggest problem with a lot of IU hate, is that it's not a lot. They just need to, like, keep one out there for the IU to be like, I'm not sure I could do this or not. But suffice to say, still pretty good thing that we got going on here. I definitely see this being run in tons of green decks, where they're like, okay, let's just make sure to get rid of IU, get rid of various other J Resonators that could come in and just, like, kind of hurt us. And then we just draw a card, and you're just doing that. You're just trying to wait out that turn, essentially, by removing that target attacking J Resonator. Of course, I believe if IU is able to attack 4 different times, or, like, let's just say that IU is able to attack twice, I'm pretty sure she could attack again into battle after doing this, because it's only, like, kind of a one-turn thing. It doesn't say remove it from all of battles, because battles happen one at a time. So, for the most part, what I'm seeing with this card is just, it's a stall. This card is directly a stall card, and that's fine. I don't mind what it does. I do mind the fact that it's green. I really wish this was either a dark card, or a red card, or a blue card. Because light cards have enough. We already have enough light cards that stall. We need other cards that are with that, and green did not need to have everything. So that's my biggest problem for it. But in terms of actual balance, in terms of text, good card. Sucks that story, though. That helps ruin a lot of crap. Like, a lot of crap. Because it's just like, Grimoire, we have another story here. Ain't that nice? And I'm just like, no, it's not. It is not nice. I hate this. I hate it. Schrodinger's marionette. No, wait, hold on. So this is the doll's marionette, the Jroller's marionette. I cannot pronounce her name for the life of me, so that's why I just call her a green Jroller. Because I don't care. I don't like her at all. I really don't. And if it was up to me, we would call her something totally different. But Resonator Doll, so it's a quick cast, automatically attack 500, defense 500, 2 cost, 1 void. When this card is put into your graveyard from the field, draw a card. Actually, just kind of a mediocre card. Just sort of is. If this actually had something else a little bit better, then it probably could have been. The very fact that this quick cast has good utility with it, but still sucky. Like, you would run different dolls. You just would. There are better dolls out there to run. and he don't look really fancy, he don't look really good, doesn't really have a good effect to begin with. You already have enough draw power as it is with green. I mean, we just saw it with this card. But suffice to say, I don't see this card being run at all. It just doesn't have any kind of niche that no other card fills, and it's just more of a doll filler, if anything else, you know? Secluded Village Elf. It's a 3-cost, attack 700, defense 700, which is like, okay, I could kind of see it going. Resonator Elf, so now it has Elf synergy going on for it, and Elf has plenty of synergy cards to go with it. And it has barrier, so once this hits the field, it cannot be targeted by spells. That is really cool. I like that. The only thing I don't like is that when you tap it, you produce the mana. And in all honesty, with the attack that she has, with the defense that she has, she's kind of not good for that. She just kind of isn't, and it's sad that she's kind of a worse Sacred Elf in that regard. If she was more like the Elf in the Trees, where she just produced the mana outright, I feel like she'd be a lot better in that regard. But then again, you're also kind of trading up for a better elf in that regard too. So I get what they're kind of doing with this card, trying to make like a more beefy Sacred Elf just for the sake and fact. I don't see this card really coming into play though. I just don't. Sacred Elf is by and far better. And if you're going to run her in a very odd sort of mana gain deck, I guess, you could probably go do that. You could probably just boost the bejeebus out of like a lot of mana, but that's all I really see going for it. Everything else is just sort of meh. Like, I don't see why we would do that aside. But, I suppose I'm looking too much into it. It's just a okay card. Shifting Minstrel, Legend 1. So this means you can always activate that little thing. This card gains the following text when you get the remove extra card. This card gains plus 200, plus 200. So it's technically speaking a 5/5 for a 1 cost. I just don't really see this being used unless it would be a different Grimoire deck than doll. There are better dolls out there to fit in comparison to this human. So for the most part, it's a later card. It's definitely a later card that could have more synergy if more Grimoire decks come out into play, which I really hope they don't, because Grimoire is too overpowered for any given reason. No one needs a Grimoire deck. Like, literally nobody does. It's too overpowered. And here we have, oddly enough, something that was made for IU. And I know it doesn't say that it's made for IU, but this is made for IU. If you read the bottom text right there, you may reveal a Were-Rabbit Resonator or Were-Rabbit Soul Resonator and put them into your hand. So what they're trying to say here is just like, hey, guess what, IU? You can get 2 of your Resonators with this card. And that's pretty freaking fancy. It actually is. So you could trade up for 2 Resonators as long as you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you have them. And IU would definitely be able to have that many. Aside from that, though, this card can be played with other decks and whatnot, which is really cool because, hey, guess what? You know, I'm not running just a doll deck. I'm not running just a dark elf deck. I'm not just running these decks that are themed after Resonators. I'm just running a blue deck. So I have all these cards. Or I'm running it's a green deck, then it just has all these cards. So that's really cool. I like these kind of cards where it's like, you could combo in later, but we don't know how you're going to combo into it later. It brings a lot of construction in the playing field, and I like that for that fact. This definitely did not need to be a quick cast. It being a 2 cost is very, very good. And honestly, I see it actually being usable in IU decks and any deck that really needs to get Resonators, I would say. Any other decks that are like that. So I'm happy for this card. I think it's really cool. I love the art for it because it just has this sort of, like, this girl's like following the other girl. They're just like, hey, you want to be friends? And I just think that's super cute. So yeah, it's a good card. It could be built on over many occasions. Story Listener Ava. This is a good card. It's a 2 cost, and this card gains plus 100 for each card revealed from your extra deck. That's stupid for one. It's stupid in the fact that it will at least have 700 when it comes into play, and then it could possibly be 1,000 if you're able to reveal that many. So you could just send out a bunch of these cards right here, and just have that as your win condition for dolls. And the very fact that it's Quickcast too means that you could do it at the end of your opponent's turn. They had nothing else to respond to. They're like, crap, I did not expect this to happen. And you're kind of just like, yeah, you didn't. Sorry, buddy. And then you just swing for game. This is a win condition for dolls. It just is. That's how good this card is. And I hate it for it, but yeah. Also super creepy. Ugh. Story Speaker Eve. 4 cost. Not going to see as much play now. Attack 6, defense 6. When this card enters the field, put target resident your opponent controls with total cost X or less at the bottom of its owner's deck, where X is the number of cards revealed from your extra deck. So you could possibly do a 5 cost. You could do a 4 cost, 3 cost, etc., etc. So not the best, honestly. I really don't see this guy coming into play at all. Even though he is a quick cast, technically speaking, the very fact that he's attack 6, defense 6, and he's a 4 cost does not help his whole thing. If he was a 3 cost and a 6/6, yeah, you know what? I could definitely see him come into play. But here as a 4 cost, no, I can't. You're better off swarming with her. Just reveal all your legend cards, and just swarm. Just don't. This one, no. Just is not good. The Ancient Library. It's an addition. When this card enters the field, draw a card. So you already have that little effect going on for itself. And then when Chance you control and you own everywhere, gain Spirit Magic in addition to their other subtypes. So this combos in with a lot of Gil stuff and a lot of extra things that are just along with Gil. It's really cool that it's an addition. You don't really get the additional effect there, so there's no real reason to actually like add more additions here. So you probably like run like 2 of them, if anything, 2 of them, because 4 is like really stretching a lot of it. But I just don't see Gil really running this deck. I understand it's viable for Gil, but Gil having just straight up counters just doesn't work nearly as well as it used to. So that's kind of a super big problem with Gil. And I don't see that coming into play anytime soon. I don't see it being very good, nearly at all. So yeah, this could have been good if we didn't have that story chant that got rid of Gil's deck, Gil's like discard pile. But we do, and that's what happened. So yeah, sucky. Oh well. The Mighty Leaf Elder. This is what helps elementals stay viable. Other resonators you control with Leaf and their name gain plus 200/+200. There are a lot more Leaf cards out. Remember that? And it's attack 500, defense 700. It can stack against any other resonator. So it can stack amongst itself, but just not itself. That means that it could make that little flying bird that's a 1 cost into a 5 cost into potentially 11. Just 11, just swinging at you for funsies. This is what makes Elemental viable in its own right, and something that I definitely see Elementals really coming into play with. I do think Elementals, in all honesty, are going to be more of a thing that come into play, but I don't really see Gil running them because of this one right here. Gil can still do it most definitely, but people are probably going to look into other options to run Elementals if they are running Elementals. Gil is just kind of sad, in all honesty, if you ask me. But this card helps Elementals stay on the field for sure. They still have a say at the table. They just at the kitty table. The Puppet's Last Days. It's a 1 cost and it's a story chant. As additional cost to play this card, banish a doll, destroy target resonator. I actually don't mind this card because even though it's a story card and you could pretty much do it at any point in time, the fact of the matter is you have to get rid of something in order for them to get rid of something, and that's a proper trade-off in comparison to a lot of these other little story chants that you have going on here. So I'm very happy that it at least has that going on, but I could definitely see this card being kind of powerful in certain situations. But for the most part, I'm not worried about it so much. Unanswered Mermaid prayers. I do not understand why people are saying this ruins weather, because it doesn't. Because it's clear and cannot be changed until end of turn. And that's it? Really? So I'm really confused why people are just sort of up in arms about it. So it's like, yeah, okay, they could stop me for one turn. You would not run this in the main deck at all. You would run this solely and utterly in the Grimoire deck. So they're able to just maybe flip it over to have the proper way of doing things. And then you're like, cool, no weather till this turn. But there's not a lot of decks that actually need weather, and the decks that do, which is Shayla, don't necessarily need weather to stay shining and stay afloat. So for the most part, this will work in situational situations. So on top of the situation being you're against Shayla, it's also a situational part when Shayla's like on the field and going like, hey, the weather is rain, and you're like, hey, no, it's not. And then you're like, okay, the weather's thunderstorm. And like, hey, no, it's not because of this card. So just like, I see people's point of them being worried about weather change, but Thunder is still sort of a, like, it doesn't need to happen every turn sort of effect. You feel me? Like, Thunder does not need to be every turn. It does help make a lot of her resonators a lot less scary in comparison, but for the most part, I'm not seeing the big uproar for this card in particular being bad. I actually find this to be one of the more balanced story chants because it's just a one-turn sort of thing, and it's like, okay, cool, whatever. This is what, like, the counter should have done. Like, if we go back to that one counter spell thing, it should have been its own other card, and it should have just been until end of turn your opponent can't use counters or something. That would have been a far better card for it, but the very fact of the matter is, weather will come back next turn. That's pretty cool. So I'm like, it's fine. I could deal with one turn without weather. And I really doubt they're going to have more weather cards, more unanswered Mermaid prayers in their deck. It's way too niche of a card. It's very specific. I don't see it happening. Alright, so here's the last card that we got going on for ourselves. The variant of the enormous Effigy. It's a 5 cost, so it technically has Quickcast because it's a doll, 13/13 like its predecessor, but it has a far better effect. Whenever damage is dealt to you, this card deals that much damage to your opponent. That's a good thing. That's what's make this card far better than its previous thing. While the other card has Death Touch, and that's pretty freaking cool, this card is like, hey, you deal damage to me, I take you down too. So we could potentially end games and draws if things go in a proper direction and whatnot. But this just says, hey, burn decks, you can't burn me right now. You can't do that. And that's super insane, and you could quick cast it to make that happen. And you're like, oh, that 200 that you just did to me, you're going to do 200 to yourself as well. Because you play that card, the 200 gets damaged to you, and you're like, oh no. And then you just sort of just like, you also get hurt. So I don't know how this would go, how you'll be able to like actually stop everything in total, but this is by and large the better card of the two variants. And probably the best variant out of all the variants that are in this little section. But yeah, that's all green now. We're done. Oh, green. There's like probably what, maybe like 3 to 4 cards that are bad, and the rest are either good, they can be built on, or otherwise. And it makes me so sad that green still has such a freaking pull on itself. It really does, because it just, green doesn't need any of this. It does not need any help to be better than it is, and yet it keeps getting stronger and stronger as time goes on. The only solace to this is that black got a huge boost with null, and water got a huge boost with thunder. That is my only solace in that fact, but fire got taken down hard. Super duper hard because of the way the green actually works. And it sucks too because green really shouldn't be the meta changer. It should not be the one that defines the meta, but it just did. It does. The new green Jroller is that good that it defines all the meta now. It literally changed the whole meta because the way that she works. So, I mean, it sucks, but it's true. That's just the way it goes. Makes me sad. Well, till next time, folks. Thank you all for watching this little review of all the green cards and the Time Spinning Witch. And hopefully, we could get done with all these soon enough, because I really hope green does get more powerful. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and if you liked this video, please share it if you can, and I shall see you all later, okay? Sayonara. Bye-bye.